Welcome back to the Handmade Way. Today we're making a true family favourite, chili jam. It's sweet, spicy and dangerously addictive. Spread it in sandwiches, glaze meat with it, dip it, dollop it. Once you've tried it, you'll want it on everything. This whole recipe started when I wanted to grow my own chilies and peppers in the garden. I went hunting for a recipe that I could use them in, made a few tweaks along the way, and it's been a huge hit ever since. Although, full disclosure, this batch is not for my garden. Yeah, I've been a terrible gardener this year. We'll save that confession for another video and what I'm planning to do about it. All the ingredients, as usual, are in the pinned comment below, so you can follow along. Let's get stuck in. First up, we need to roughly chop and de-seed 8 red peppers. Of course, this job becomes a lot easier when you've got a bit of child labour on hand. I've got my sous chefs on the job. Looking good. Next, grab a piece of ginger about the size of your finger, peel it and roughly chop it. Same goes for 8 garlic cloves. Just peel them, there's no need to crush or mince. There's no need to be neat here. Everything's going into the food processor in a moment. Now for the star of the show, the chilies. I'm using about 10 red chilies, roughly chopped. I'll do this bit myself because I don't fully trust the kids not to rub their eyes after. Here's where it gets a little bit personal. Chili jam spice levels really depend on what you can handle. I once made a batch of habaneros and my mate devoured jar after jar. But honestly, I could barely eat it. So this time I'm sticking with 10 red chilies and I'm going to keep the seeds in, partly for the kick, but also partly because they look great in the final jam. But if you do prefer less heat, just scoop the seeds out or use a milder chili or even just less chilies. Alright, time for the food processor. In go the chilies, ginger, garlic, peppers and 400 grams of cherry tomatoes. Blitz it all up on high until you've got a finely chopped pulp. If your food processor's on the smaller side like mine, you'll probably need to do this in 3 or 4 batches, in which case don't worry about which ingredients end up in which batch. It's all going into the same pot in the end. Sometimes the ingredients get stuck up on the sides or on top, so just give it a few pulses to draw everything back down, just like I'm doing here. I have to admit, when you're putting this into the pan, it's not going to look great. Even after adding our 250ml of red wine vinegar to the pot, and all 750 grams of our type 2 sugar to the mix, there should be enough liquid in that mix that it dissolves with a simple stir. It still doesn't look amazing. Yet. It's not the prettiest looking jams at the start, and as you're boiling it, which is what we're going to do now, bring it to the boil, you get loads of like scum that you need to peel off the top, which doesn't sound very appealing, but it's because you've not peeled all the tomatoes and peppers, so unless you want to peel every tomato and pepper, it's a lot easier to do it this way. I've got a whole tomato in there. How's that gone through the food processor and come out like that? So I'll just pop it as it cooks. As the mixture comes up to the boil, you'll notice this orangey red foam forming on top. All you need to do is scoop it off with a spoon. Now you don't have to remove it, it's completely harmless. It's basically just denatured proteins that have been aerated by the bubbles as it boils.
Yes, science!
Most jams get it, but if you skim it off, your jam will look clearer and more appealing in the jar. Once you've hit a nice rolling boil and you've de-scummed it, yes, that's an official technical term. That's how it's been de-scummed? I may have just cited myself. Anyway, you can turn the heat down to a gentle simmer. From here, we're going to let it bubble away for about 50 minutes, stirring every so often to make sure it doesn't catch and burn at the bottom. And if you're like me, it always helps to bring in an expert to confirm whether you're actually simmering or not. Class that as simmering?
Yeah.
While the jam's simmering away, I like to use the time to get my jars cleaned and sterilised so they're ready and hot for filling. This recipe usually makes about 4 medium jars, but I always prepare a couple of extra. Why, I hear you ask? Well, firstly, I like to make what I call the overflow jar, basically the jar that I get to eat straight away. And secondly, if a jar does break or something goes wrong, it saves me the stress of frantically sterilising another one at the last minute. Now, I won't go into full details on jar sterilisation and how you can sterilise with water bathing and all this sort of stuff here, but if you would like a dedicated video on that, do let me know in the comments. And if you're finding this helpful or maybe even a bit entertaining, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. After about 50 minutes of simmering, your jam should have reduced down and started turning sticky. That's the sign that we're nearly there. From that point, keep cooking for another 10 to 15 minutes, but you'll want to stir it a lot more regularly now, as this is where it can easily catch on the bottom if left alone. What you're looking for is that boiling, sticky lava look, thick bubbles, slow movement. Once it reaches that stage, you're done. And it might still look a touch runny in the pan to you, but don't panic. As it cools in the jars, it will thicken up beautifully. Once your jam is ready, take it off the heat and set out your sterilised jars while they're still nice and hot. I use a funnel from a preserve making set. I'll link it in the description and pin comment if you're in the need for one. For jars where it doesn't quite fit, I just tilt it sideways and it works perfectly fine. As you fill each jar, try to leave as little air gap as possible, then use a sterilised skewer or jabber to poke through the jam and release any hidden air bubbles. This step is really important because any trapped air pockets can create spots where bacteria might grow, and it will just limit the shelf life of the jam. Take your time here. This is where all your effort starts looking like real, finished jars of chili jam. Now for one of my favourite little hacks. Instead of wasting all that boiling water you use for sterilising, put it to work. First, I like to dip my filled jars back into it, the hot water just to clean off any sticky residue from the sides. It makes them look neat and tidy straight away. But here's the real trick. I use that same water to wash out the pan. Trust me, this jam is sticky stuff, and if you leave it, you'll be chiseling it off later. A good rinse with sterilisation water while it's still piping hot, and it all comes off easily. It saves you scrubbing, saves you sponge, and as you can see, it works brilliantly. And there we go. Rich, glossy chili jam, poured straight into the jars. A few minutes later, lids go on, and they're ready for the shelf, or more likely the sandwich. You can even dress them up a little bit if you're gifting them to friends or family, though honestly, they won't last long around here. If you do give this recipe a go, let me know in the comments what you paired it with. I'm always looking for new ideas, and if you enjoyed this video, a like really helps others find it, and subscribing means you'll catch the next project too. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep crafting independence, one skill at a time.